Let's scoot ahead. UEFA Women's Nations League third place match. I was pretty pissed about this. So I'm obviously watching Spain versus France. I think that was on CBS Sports. So, I was able to get that one going. And then I'm just kind of like, I'm like, all right, cracking my fingers. Game's over. I'm expecting the old Sunday NFL switch from the 1 o'clock game to the 4 o'clock game. Didn't happen. I instead had to shuffle over to YouTube, another shoddy live stream in, I believe it was Dutch. I could be wrong. So I kept up as well as I could. It's tough when, even if you've got a big monitor, it's still hard to see the numbers of the players. I'm just like, okay, I think that's Oberdorf. All right, that's definitely Pop. Okay, all right, I'm locked in. Okay, Spitza. Yeah, okay, I see Spitza here. It was a tough go for your guy. I did my best. I'm going to keep hammering the same point. Let's get some fucking TV coverage for some of these big matches. There were huge stakes attached to this one. No reason it shouldn't be on U.S. television here. Yeah. Do your guys a favor. We're out here trying to elevate the sport. It's the least you can do. But congrats to Germany. They punched their ticket to the Olympics. Huge win for them on the road in the Netherlands. Goals from a couple big money players. Clara Bull, who we talked about, she is super in form. She scores in the 66th minute off a Lena Oberdorf assist. They'll be teammates next season at Bayern. So look out, Frauen Bundesliga. And at halftime, Germany brings on definitely one of the top 100 players in the world, The Guardian, Leah Schuler, who also got cooking. 78th minute goal from her to slam the door shut on the Dutch. Assist to who else? Clara Bull, Netherlands. Couldn't really get going in this one. Again, midfield a little soft. I'm not going to mention a certain young player currently playing in the Netherlands who could maybe help them there, who would fit really nicely into that midfield. But I don't know. Here's hoping that never happens.
If I were born in Virginia, I would consider playing for the USA. But speaking of the Netherlands midfield, I thought Daniela van de Donk had a golden opportunity in the 21st minute. Lineth Bierenstein, she was dispossessed. But with Bierenstein, she's only dispossessed once she's surrounded by like 4 German defenders to finally get the ball off her. They dispossess her. The ball rolls right onto Van de Donk's powerful left foot, but she sailed it over the crossbar from about 20 yards out. This is one of the things I love about football is just like that moment. I think the game could be different because I feel like the Dutch had a rough go of it in their last match. I just feel like if you can get a goal inside of 30 minutes, I feel like everything changes about your demeanor.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the environment kind of cooled at that point too. Yeah. Crowd was pretty live early. Speaking of Bierenstein, probably my favorite player on that Dutch side.
Awesome.
She's just, I wish the U.S. had a player like that. Just physical, like a freight train, and just always hungry and just physically tough to deal with. Myra Ramirez probably cut from a little bit of that same cloth. We talked about passing, creating space, and like chances coming from that. And they were able to hold Germany at bay for the most part. Germany wasn't super productive in that first half either. So game very much in the balance, going pretty late into that match. But yeah, there's just something about this Netherlands like roster. And we joke about it, but I think they had a couple pieces that were missing. Spitza playing a little bit out of position too. They're just kind of doing what they could.
Yeah, totally fair. And we talk about these teams like Netherlands at worst. What are they, the 10th, the 8th, the 7th best team in the world? What is Germany? They're at worst, they're the 7th or 8th or 9th. They're somewhere in this mix of maybe the 6th best team in the world. So there are small degrees kind of separating these squads. And we talked about Germany and their stacked roster in general. We talked about their young players. Sioka Nuskin, I mentioned her when we talked about those young players. Chelsea midfielder. She hit an absolute rocket in the 48th minute after the second half opened. She forced a fantastic save from Daphne van Damselaar that I thought, like, when you talk about things were kind of cool in that first half, I thought that was like Germany's way of like, okay, second half has started, like we're going to go out and we're going to win this thing. When you look at that German midfield, the way they played, they lined up Jewel Brand of Wolfsburg, one of those young players I mentioned, Nuskin, Lena Oberdorf, another young player from Wolfsburg, and Clara Buell from Bayern Munich. That's going to be tough sledding no matter what your midfield looks like for any team in the world. And I do think it makes sense because we talked about it a little bit and you mentioned it again a moment ago. With Spitze kind of bumping up into the midfield, it almost feels like Netherlands kind of has to do that when they're playing these opponents that have like a ton of firepower in their midfield, just to give themselves a chance to kind of win balls in there.
Yeah, I think there's, I'm not going to say her name. There's somebody that could really help them in that midfield. But they're just kind of up against it a little bit. Up front, too, they could definitely use like Alika Martin's replacement. I was surprised we haven't seen like Rome Luchter at all for them. Like, who knows? Like, I mean,
Exactly.
the managers that are setting these lineups know a shit ton more than we do. We're just kind of watching from the sidelines. But I think to your point, Germany, definitely the more talented side. I think that's safe to say. I think these teams are both obviously going to be dangerous in the Euros. But yeah, Germany, props to them. Massive win on the road. Big high stakes win.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, Germany played well. They kind of showed that German way of playing football that I always talk about, that is like almost like ingrained in the culture. And while I would have loved to see Netherlands play in the Olympics, the quality that you talked about from those players that we mentioned, I mean, Schuler and Buell just kind of jump off the screen anytime you watch. They're a welcome addition to the summer games, I would say.
1,000%. They can definitely push any team, on their best day, just because they're so and I think this has gone back at least a couple World Cups. The talent is there, just haven't been able to put it together. A lot like probably the home country, France, super talented. But man, let me tell you, and apologies for rewinding, but watching all of those super talented French players just have nothing for that Spain defense.
Yeah, it's
like watching, I don't know, a superhero get smacked around. You're like, wait, no, that's that's like Selma Vasha out there. That's like like Grace Gayer out there, or DNE. Like, wow, to kind of hold that team without a shot, that was just fucking incredible. But again, a lot of time between now and then, a lot of sort of tactical adjustments to be made. These players are all, again, so young. When you're that young, you do make a leap within your career or your skill set. So I think we're going to see a lot of this young talent, especially on this German side, like you mentioned. And the benefit that they have is they're all kind of playing in the same league. You mentioned Lena Oberdorf. She signed that deal, so she'll be leaving Wolfsburg this year to join Bayern. There's going to be a lot more chemistry, I think, along that side, which absolutely has helped the Spain side. So many Barca players on it. I think they started another 6 or 7 in this match again. So all of that stuff carries over. So the Olympics, I think, going to be super exciting. Great field so far, stacking up. A couple spots left to be claimed. Who do we have that's qualified?
10 teams have qualified thus far. We have the host country, obviously, France. We have our home country, USA. And then you have Brazil, Colombia, Canada, New Zealand, Spain, obviously, Australia, Japan,
oh my God,
and Germany. Let's go.
Those group stages are going to be fucking bananas. I think there's 2 spots left.
Hell yeah.
To be represented by the African nations. I know one of the matchups, one of the spots is going to go to either, let's be honest with ourselves, it's going to go to Zambia. Morocco, no fucking chance. Jorge Vilda, get him out of here. Barbara Banda, get her in here. Kundanaji, get her in here. This is not only a learning podcast, this is a Copper Queens podcast, right? You're in Copper Queens country here.
Damn right.
So yeah, we're pulling for Zambia, and I believe Nigeria is up for the other spot, and I'm blanking on the 4th team, but I imagine Nigeria will probably grab that spot. Not a gimme in the bunch when you look at those 12 teams. I think they mentioned on the U.S. telecast of the U.S.-Mexico game, only 18 roster spots, if I'm not mistaken, on that Olympic squad. So real tight. It's going to be some tough guts to make, and we're going to have to get that roster right. Or it could be a quick week and a half before we have to pack up and head home.
I think you're totally right. I mean, it's obviously going to be insanely competitive. And alongside that, if you have a really short tournament, you cannot have a ton of lead time between the matches. Mm-hmm. I think the rosters are going to have to skew a little younger. And like, how many vets are you really putting on there? Because if you give a 31-year-old player 40 minutes, can you use them again? How much benefit do you get from them not playing? So I think it's going to be 18 spots, man. It's going to be tight.
Yeah, and I think that's where some of the long view game theory kind of comes in. Because, obviously Gold Cup, we want to win it. We want to advance, so we want to get reps. We don't want to just kind of get bounced. But we also want to have some of these personnel learnings because, to your point, tough to recover, as an older player. And I think what we've seen in this Gold Cup first 3 matches, tough to switch it up in a very big way and kind of keep the chemistry. I think we saw the chemistry peak in that second match against Argentina and trough against Mexico. And it doesn't seem like it should be so disruptive to just make a couple changes, but it looked like a completely different team. Obviously, the competition was a little stiffer against Mexico, but that 18-player cutoff is pretty harsh. And who knows, maybe it plays into the U.S.'s favor. We'll have to keep an eye on that as well.
It's going to be interesting. And you know what? Look, I've already let the flag show. And, for anybody who's just like, wait a minute, why is this goofy American guy who lives in Seattle and lived in New York for a while, why is he so in the tank for England? Little video game called FIFA that I used to play on the Super Nintendo, where I was just like, oh, this team's good. And then I started playing. And there we go. I just want to say this field is absolutely fucking sick, even with the injustice of England or, for Olympic purposes, Great Britain not being in the field. I don't know why I'm putting scare quotes around Great Britain. Great Britain is a real place that exists, but just not so much like in the footballing world as we see it. And so, yeah, am I a big old man baby for continuously whining that my Lionesses didn't get in? Sure, of course. I don't run away from that. But let's not forget, because in the Olympics it is Team Great Britain, we would have got to essentially see Aaron Cuthbert from Scotland just dropped right into a team that is mostly made up of the England squad. So I believe we all lost in this transaction. I look forward to them rectifying it in the next Olympics.
Well, I'll tell you what, buddy. Short flight for you. 2028 Los Angeles Games. We might get.
Let's go.
We might get Great Britain.
Hell yeah.
12.
I'll be there in the Union Jack.
Love it. Oh, that's great. All right. Should be a really, really fun weekend of football. D1F kicks back up on Saturday. Lyon, PSG, Paris FC, all back in action. And we get a little CONCACAF Gold Cup quarterfinals. Canada kicks us off there versus Costa Rica. That one's going down 7 p.m. Eastern. Two old foes go at it. Brazil versus Argentina. Saturday night, 10:15 p.m. Sunday, some WSL action. Leicester versus Chelsea, Arsenal versus Tottenham, Manchester City versus Everton. And in the Dutch League, this is a big one. Ajax, our squad. I'm just going to kind of claim this is an Ajax pod. Take on the league leaders, never lost, FC Twente. This one's a big matchup. Two of the top teams in that league. And we close out CONCACAF quarterfinals with little Mexico versus Paraguay. That one's happening Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern. And then the big one, USA versus Colombia, 8:15 p.m. We will come back next week with recaps for pretty much all those matches. So definitely stick around. Be sure to subscribe. Give us a like if you enjoyed what you saw here. I think we did it. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. Remember, subscribe or follow Into the Channel, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen, at ITC_pod on X, at Into the Channel pod on Threads. Big thanks to you, all of you, for watching and listening. We very, very much appreciate it. No matter your club, no matter your country, the Into the Channel community is a place where we can all hang out, talk a little football, share ideas, fire off these takes. You guys drop some scorchers in the YouTube comments, so definitely keep those coming. We're just very much enjoying celebrating the sport we all love with each and every one of you. We're thrilled to have you hanging out with us. While you're there, leave some ratings and reviews. Those are always appreciated as well. Big thank you to my co-host for making the final 12 in the Olympics. I will see you this summer, buddy. But before we get there, I'll see you next week.
We got there, buddy. Go Ajax. Dan, good luck to you, buddy.